This video is going to show how to make a patch pocket, and I'm going to knit it on a sample. The sample is going to be 40 stitches wide. I'm not actually going to knit the sweater hem. I'm just going to cast on and then knit 10 rows and then show you how to start the pocket. So the pocket is going to be 20 stitches wide, and it's going to have 40 rows for the body and then 10 rows for the welt. And then I'm going to knit a few rows after that. So on either side of the pocket, because I'm casting on 40 stitches and the pocket is 20 stitches wide, I'm going to have 10 stitches to either side of my pocket. All right, so let's go and get started. I'm starting my knitting, so I've got 40 stitches out to cast on. So remember, this is a sample, so for your actual pocket you will need to calculate the required lengths and widths. Alright, so I've cast on and I'm going to knit 10 rows before I begin my pocket. Got 2 stitches here that aren't knitting properly, so I think I will shift my weight over this way and add an extra weight on the side. And I wasn't really using my row counter, so I've lost track of how many rows I've knit. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8, 9, 10. All right, so I'm at the point where I'm going to begin my pocket. I'm at that point now, so I'm going to set 10 stitches to either side on hold while I knit the pocket over the center 20 stitches. So the first thing I'm going to do is push forward the 10 stitches on the opposite side of the carriage. Then I'm going to set the holding cam on my carriage to hold and knit 1 row across, and then now I'm going to set the 10 stitches on this side of my pocket to hold as well. Okay, the next step is to begin knitting the 40 rows for the pocket. And I'm going to knit it using a contrast yarn so that you can really see. So I've taken out the main color and I'm going to use this lime green to knit the pocket. So if you were knitting the pocket in the same color as your main color, what you would want to do with that last row I knit back is to knit it at a higher tension so that there'll be a line of looser stitches and you could see where to pick up for the body of the sweater. I'm putting my lime green yarn into my carriage and I've knit the first row for the pocket. I will reset my row counter to 1 actually, and I'm going to put a clothes peg on this line so that it knits properly. Now, because I'm doing partial knitting, the stitches on these sides, these edges, may not knit properly unless they are weighted. So I need to put some weight on that edge. And I'm going to take my claw weights and put them there where they'll do more good. And I'll shift them up as I knit every 5 to 10 rows so they continue to work. row 2, row 3, row 4, and on row 4 I can see that several of my stitches they knit because my weighting is off. So each machine has its peculiarities. Yours may knit 10 rows with no issues, but for the most part you'll need to apply more weight on this section because the weight distribution is uneven now that some stitches are on hold. Okay, row 4, I'm going to move my weight up. Okay, row 5, and I'm going to use my hands on the weights to apply a bit more pressure. Row 6, row 7, row 8, row 9, row 10, and I will shift my weight up. Row 11, row 12, row 13, row 14, row 15, row 16, row 17. And now that I've got a length I can put my finger around, I can actually remove my claw weight and just put that in the center, because the center is the part that's really difficult to weight, and just pull down on the edge like this. Okay, just make sure the center is effectively weighted. All right, row 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and I'm going to continue till I get to 40. I'm at 40 now, and the next step for this pocket is to knit the welt. So I'm going to knit 10 rows and another 10 rows, because the welt is going to be folded. It's going to be a folded band on top of the pocket. It's not ribbed, so I need to knit double of this number of rows, so 10 times 2, which is 20 rows. But for the first row I'm going to increase my tension to tension 10. Why? So that I can see the row where I need to pick up. So that's the first row. Some of my stitches they knit through. And I'm going to set my row counter back to 8. I was knitting at tension 8, and proceed to knit the rest of the 19 rows for the welt. So I will set my row counter to 1 and knit 19 more rows. I've got my 20 rows, and I can see the line where I need to fold my stitches. So I'm going to pick up the stitches on that row and put them on the needles to fold the hem. All right, I'll start from the edge stitch and pick up across that row to fold my hem. Okay, so now that I've finished picking up the hem, I will push the needles past the stitches so that the stitches fall behind the latch, and then pull those needles back to the position so that they will knit. Since I've still got my holding cam out on my carriage, then I'm going to knit one row at tension 9. I've adjusted my tension to 9, and I'll knit one row after to join the hem. And now I'm going to bind off. Finish binding off, and I'm going to take this stitch off. And so this is the flap that I just finished knitting. This is the flap of the pocket, and I'm going to let that down, push that back behind my fabric. And now I'm ready to knit the body of the sweater, which the flap will be sewn to. So I'm going to pull up my fabric back to the row where I started the pocket from, and I'm going to go and pick up this last row of white that I knit. So this last row of white stitches that I knit, I'm going to pick that up and put that back on these 20 needles. So you have to be careful here that you're picking up the actual stitches, so that in the event of anything happening to the pocket, you will not start to, your work won't start to unravel from that point. Does that make sense? But anyway, you're picking up this line, this row that you knit last. Okay, so something that helps is when you look at the last stitch hanging here on hold, that stitch goes into a stitch and another stitch comes out of that one. So that's where you're going to start picking up from. careful not to. I'm going to take my comb off because it's more of a hindrance than a help right now. And finish picking up my stitches. And the last one over here. Great. So now that I've got all my stitches on, I'm going to take my white yarn and I'm going to put it back into the carriage. I seem to have a stitch over here. Let me just check that. I have a really long loop over here, which might leave a hole in my work. Okay, I didn't drop a stitch. I just wanted to confirm that. Okay, so I'm going to cut my white yarn where I had it on hold. And I'm going to push all my needles forward to E position. I'm going to cancel my hold and come so that when I knit across, it will knit in all of my stitches. And these tails that I have here, I have a tail over here. I can weave that into my work so that I do not have to weave it in later. I can do the same also for this tail, unless I want to use it to sew up the pocket, in which case you can leave it alone. But if not, you can weave it into the next row so that you do not have to deal with it once you finish knitting. Notice I'm weaving it over the pocket stitches so that the color doesn't bleach through on the side that does not have the green color. But if all of your work is the same color, then it doesn't matter. Now I'm going to knit at my main tension, which is tension 8. I'm going to knit one row across. Here we go. I seem to have a hole. Well, I can't figure out why I have a hole here. Let me knit this in properly. So if you have a hole like this, you can fix that. It's because I have a really loose stitch over here. So I'm going to take the top of this loop here and put it on this stitch, and take that loose loop and put it on the opposite stitch, and that sort of fixes that hole. Okay, so now I can continue and knit the body of the sweater up to the pocket welt. So I'm going to knit 50 rows, and that will take me to the pocket welt. I say 50 rows because I knit 40 rows for the body of the pocket, and then 10 rows is the height for the pocket welt. So 50 rows will take me to the pocket welt, and then I can knit an extra length above the pocket. So altogether I'm going to knit, let's say 70 rows, and then take my work off and show you what it looks like. I'm going to put some weights here. Sure my fabric is actually weighted. All right, and then let's begin. This is the second row actually. I'll set my row counter to 2. And secure my tail. can go on to row 70.